Hello and welcome to Business News for the Average Person. My name is Nicholas, your host. It is January 24th, a month since Christmas. I took a break there for a couple of weeks, and a lot has happened since then. And gave me some time the break gave me some time to think about where I wanted to steer the channel. Yeah, and going forward, instead of only explaining stuff, I will focus a little bit more on forecasting and predicting stuff um, that's going to affect us in our daily life. So let's start with the COVID-19 news here. Very quickly, I'll open these up in a few seconds, but I wanted to talk about see how the FDA has expanded Pfizer booster eligibility, and yeah, so you can expect that for your kids. All right. Should we treat COVID like the flu? I have been saying the last few months that COVID seems to be becoming endemic instead of being pandemic, meaning is going to stay with us for a long term. Lots of governments have started treating it as such and moving toward the direction. Okay, so that's yeah, so FDA expands Pfizer booster eligibility. Should we treat COVID like the flu? And Bill Gates also thinks so, although he's not an epidemiologist, so it's hard to, see why he is qualified to say that. He studied that a lot, I'm sure. Okay, and see, Americans are showing up to work sick. Not a good thing here, but that's the state of social welfare here in this country and how people um, don't have that luxury of paid leave. Okay, so very quickly here, I want so very interestingly here in the Omicron crush, people pay a lot for testing. So I didn't see that kind of behavior in the previous variants. So I wonder what is going on here. It's not more deadly. The Omicron variant's not more deadly. I'm going to put a question mark on here, and so as to come back to this in later weeks. Okay. And very quickly here, Starbucks dropped the vaccine mandate because guess what? The Supreme Court um, blocks the nationwide vaccine. So there's a bit of going back and forth, right? And it'd be, like I said before, it'd be interesting to see how businesses would react. Um, yeah, okay. And on the other side of that, you have Apple. Uh, will be requiring booster shots, right, for its employees. So you have companies on both sides of that. And very quickly here, the last two pieces of COVID news. People are just sick of the pandemic here. As you can see, childcare is doing very badly. And the state of childcare in America is pretty bad. And for this to the COVID pandemic has made things worse. So you can expect having and bringing up kids to get even more expensive here in the short run at least. Last thing here, American Airlines flight to London returns to Miami after passenger refuses to wear mask. I don't know why people are doing that. I mean, the rules are pretty straightforward. You know what to expect when you bought the plane ticket. And what it does indicate to me is that companies are going to tolerate less and less of bad behavior, which is good because as companies continue to fire bad customers, so to speak, it'll raise employee morale. And personally, I believe that, people a lot of people going back to frontline service worker jobs is going to be very dependent on whether companies, their employers, back them up when faced with unreasonable behavior from customers. I think a lot of companies are realizing the customer is not always right. So you're going to get see more and more companies becoming more and more picky about the kind of customers they want to attract and keep. You know, so let's go skip this miscellaneous. Talk about that later. Let's talk about inflation here. COVID, inflation, job market. Those have been, the focus of all the headline news, right? In 2020, I mean 2021. Okay, home prices continue to rise. No surprise there. There is no sign of it easing, and experts are saying this is not like 2008. This is a demand and supply issue. Although I have to wonder, at some point it becomes unaffordable, right, for the average person to be buying a home. Then what? Is this a change in the way Americans see home ownership? Are we going to have an entire generation or maybe two that just don't see buying as an option because they can't afford it? Right? Needless to say, the home buying, home selling, home improvement industries continue to do very well. Oil prices at 7-year high, but Exxon CEO is confident they'll trend lower. Why? Because demand is going to fall. Because COVID's going to continue to rip a good one in the world economy. Here I want to talk a little bit about this is not news per se, but a report by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Very quickly here, with all the price increases in 2021, um, it has actually eroded the gains in wages. So you can see here, real average hourly earnings decreased 2.4% seasonally adjusted. Yeah, that's not good for the average person. We were all saying, yay, good, wages have gone up. Employees are taking employees' concerns more seriously, but yeah, inflation has eaten that away. So very quickly here, what does real mean? Real means after accounting for inflation. That's all there is. Whereas nominal doesn't account for the effects of inflation. So for example, if you have got nominal your inflation at 5% and your wages went up by let's just say 8%, so your real increase in your wage rate is 8% minus 5% is 3 percentage points. Okay. Peloton is hiking prices, and you're going to see a few more of these articles here. Uh, you know, uh, this episode, Peloton hiking prices. Americans will drive less because of pricier gasoline, soaring inflation. That's what Target CEO says. Here, I want to talk a little bit about Turkey. Why do we care about Turkey, right? Hardly hear about it in the news. Regional power in that part of the world, obviously. And the reason why this is important is because they're trying to handle the inflation rate, tackle it very differently. Okay, instead of increasing interest rates and all that fun stuff. So there's this kind of an experiment, if you will, and if it fails, we know what not to do. If it succeeds, that will be interesting to watch what its people are doing, how they're perhaps having to suffer through this in the meantime. All right, inflation 7%, highest since 1982. We've been talking about that. Okay, Fed chairman, that's who eventually decides whether rates go up or not. If we have to raise rates more over time, we will. Everyone is expecting rates to go up in 2022. Not a surprise there. Will it actually help inflation? Remains to be seen. And 1 in 3 Americans overspent during the holidays, boosting credit card balances. Are we instead of a housing boom and bust, are we instead going to see, credit card debt causing an economic crisis? that'll be interesting to see. I think instead of overspending, I think really the issue is things have become more expensive. It's not because people are living beyond their means, but more like things are just more expensive. Okay, same article. I mean, similar headlines saying the same thing. Things are just becoming more expensive, right? So for you, my average person on the street, time to actually spend a bit more time thinking about how you can make your dollar stretch further. Yeah, think more before you buy stuff. Okay, very quickly here, the headlines story for the job market is still generally doing well, except the jobless claims are higher than expected. Okay, so which is these kinds of things go up and down, but generally the job market is still pretty tight. And then you have Peloton. I think this might be the first of many to come, laying off workers. But then again, you could make the argument that, hey, the Peloton and the Netflix boom has come and gone because people are starting to live life back to normal. Those stay-at-home stocks not going to be doing as well. I wanted to also talk uh, very quickly here. Okay, you have that, some more bigger companies, Goldman Sachs, it's one of the largest investment banks, Deloitte, consulting firm, expecting, encouraging um, employees rather, to continue to stay at home. So yeah, that might be the trend. Gonna delete this. Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about this. More than 1 million fewer students are in college. Okay, basically, in the short run, that will help with the labor crunch, right? Because the opportunity cost of going to college is very high now for high schoolers. They can be making 16, $20 an hour. Why would they want to go to college? In the long run, though, I worry about the state of the economic productivity because if you're more highly educated, generally you're more productive at work for a variety of reasons. I'm not going to go into that for the purpose of this video. But in the long run, you might see labor productivity stagnate or even go down. We're talking about perhaps 10 years down the road. So when colleges obviously are going to find it more difficult to balance their budgets. But more importantly, for you, the average person, that means that if you're thinking of going back to school there, it hasn't been a better time because competition is less and you might even competition is less keen, right, for college spots as well as grad school, and you might find it easier to qualify for tuition aid, right? Okay, airlines and travel, various stuff here. Flights are still continuing to be cut, and over the holidays because of bad weather, flights were delayed and so on and so forth. Not a surprise here. Here's what I think. If you can choose not to travel, don't. It's just a bad time to travel. People are getting stressed, and as we saw just now, flights being turned back because of bad behavior. I'm sure these are the really bad ones because that's why they got into news, right? National, international news. But why put yourself through that kind of stress? You know? People are behaving badly at retail stores. What more on crowded planes? Shortages, price increases. Okay, Netflix raises prices, right? McDonald's cut hours. Grocery stores struggling to stock empty shelves, and the shortages are back because of because shortages of stuff as well as shortages of workers. Canon can't get toner chips, so it's telling customers how to defeat its programming so that you can, I guess, use pirated toners and cartridges, although that's not the intention, right? Uh, you know, Yeah, restaurants are switching to dark meat, chicken thighs, which are traditionally less expensive, for the menus. Even the $5 pizza at Little Caesars no longer costs $5. Domino's is giving fewer wings, right? $29,000 for an average used car. It says here meat is getting cheaper, but don't get fooled by the headlines here. It is actually because cheaper than I don't know, 5 months ago. It's not cheap. Americans are going to see their savings shrink. Yeah, we talked about that just now. Things are more expensive, right? Stores are getting closed down because they can't find enough workers, right? And you're going to see more corporate, right? America closing stores to clean or consolidate operations because it's just getting more and more difficult to find people to staff the stores. Oil costs more. We talked about that. Okay. A lot of stuff here. And then finally, stock market. Okay, here, pandemic boom is over. Peloton and Netflix, right? Victims of that. Kohl's getting $9 billion bid because they are not doing as well as their investors would like them to. Banks are doing very well. Okay, this article talks about Bank of America as well as other big banks like JP Morgan and Wells Fargo. And here you have a bit of Chinese stock market news. I've said before on this channel many times that what happens in China may affect us because you'll be surprised if you own a 401k and you invest, you don't pay active attention to what your money's being invested in. There is a lot of money invested in Chinese stocks. So don't be surprised if, that changes your retirement plans, is what I'm saying. So banks are ending or lowering overdraft fees. That's great news. Helping average Americans here, as well as trying to get ahead of regulators, right? Because that's been, the on the target of regulators, you know. And Apple continues to do well. Taco Bell's trying to sell monthly subscription for tacos, trying to bring more people into their stores on a daily basis. Hopefully that will, they will buy more stuff when they're there. Yeah. So Crocs stocks goes up. So on the whole, you can see that the stock market is doing well, with some exceptions. No surprise. Yeah, things are going up. So to beat inflation, instead of putting your money into a low interest rate account, educate yourself. Learn how to start investing in the stock market. You don't have to do all your technical analysis or yeah, to figure out what stock there there is to buy. You don't even need to go learn about accounting to know what all these things mean. What is a PE ratio? Is a PE ratio of 10 or 12 too high or too low? What's the context? They're educate yourself how to invest wisely in the stock market. Perhaps being passive is the way to go for most people. At least it is for me. So, and that way, you can help your hard-earned savings beat the inflation rate and then some. All right, I'm going to end here. There was a lot to cover. I didn't go through each and every article like I usually do. We're just going to look at headline news and talk very briefly, as well as make predictions and forecasts about where things are going based on that. So thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.